Moving out to an upscale suburban neighborhood was supposed to be a fresh start. No more cramped driveways. No ridiculous HOA rules dictating what color I could paint my house. No nosy neighbors peering over fences. Just peace, quiet, and a little space to breathe. Or so I thought. Turns out, even in the most exclusive neighborhoods, HOA enforcers like Patricia find a way to make your life miserable. The first time I met her, she showed up unannounced on my property, clipboard in hand, her face locked in a permanent scowl. "This road is for residents only," she snapped, eyes narrowing at my truck as I pulled into my own driveway. "You can't just drive on it like it's your personal highway." I raised an eyebrow. "I live here. This is my driveway, my property, my land." Patricia pursed her lips into a thin line. "All roads in this community fall under HOA jurisdiction. You need to submit a request for access like everyone else." I let out a short laugh, thinking she had to be joking. "This road was built by the previous owner. It's private property. The HOA has nothing to do with it." "That's not what our community guidelines state," she said, tapping her clipboard. "If you don't comply, we'll have to take further action." I waved her off and slammed my truck door behind me. Big mistake. The next morning, I walked outside and immediately noticed something was off. My truck sat in the driveway, completely normal, but just a few feet down the road, gleaming metal spikes jutted out from the pavement. I blinked, thinking I had to be seeing things. Nope. Patricia had installed spike strips on my own driveway. I stormed down the road, stopping just short of the twisted metal teeth. These weren't some flimsy plastic deterrents. These were professional-grade tire shredders, the kind law enforcement uses to stop high-speed chases. My blood boiled. This wasn't just petty HOA nonsense. This was straight-up illegal. I yanked out my phone and took multiple pictures, making sure to capture every angle. If Patricia thought she could get away with this, she had severely underestimated me. I spun around and marched straight to her house, hammering on her door. A moment later, she opened it with a smug smile, sipping a cup of coffee like she had all the time in the world. "Can I help you?" she asked sweetly. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, pointing back at my driveway. "You put spike strips in front of my house." She took a slow sip of her coffee. "Well, I did warn you. It's criminal damage to property. Not to mention, it's completely unsafe. What if an emergency vehicle needed to get through?" I snapped. Patricia shrugged. "Rules are rules. If you have an issue, take it up with the HOA board." I clenched my fists, trying not to explode. "Oh, don't worry. I'll take it up with someone, just not the board." Because what Patricia didn't know was that I had a lawyer on speed dial. Before I did anything else, I documented everything. The placement of the strips, the bolts in the ground, even Patricia's smug expression as she watched me. This wasn't a prank. This was deliberate sabotage. Then, I made one phone call. "You're kidding me," my lawyer, Matt, said when I sent him the photos. "I wish I was. Can she actually get away with this?" He let out a sharp laugh. "Not a chance. This is property damage, reckless endangerment, and illegal road obstruction. You want me to handle it?" "Absolutely. Make her regret every second of it." The next day, Patricia received a very official-looking letter delivered straight to her door. The kind that made it clear this wasn't just an HOA issue. It was a lawsuit waiting to happen. By the time I got home, she was already outside, yanking the strips out of the pavement, grumbling under her breath. But she wasn't going to give up that easily. That night, I was jolted awake by a loud bang from outside. Grabbing a flashlight, I stepped onto my porch. My truck was untouched, but as I shined the beam toward the driveway, my stomach dropped. The spike strips were gone, but my mailbox lay in pieces on the ground, its wooden post split in half. I gritted my teeth. Patricia had upped the ante. I documented the damage and called the non-emergency police line. The officer who arrived took one look at the shattered mailbox and sighed. "Looks like vandalism to me. Got any security cameras?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm getting some installed tomorrow." "Good idea," he said, jotting down notes. "We'll have a word with her." By morning, I had a full surveillance system in place. Cameras covered my driveway, the road, and even a clear view of Patricia's house. That night, I slept soundly, knowing that if she tried anything else, I'd have proof. Sure enough, just 2 nights later, my cameras caught Patricia sneaking onto my property. She had a can of spray paint in one hand and a roll of caution tape in the other. I watched in disbelief as she defaced my driveway with HOA violation notices. The next morning, I handed the footage to Matt. Well, he said, smirking, this just keeps getting better. Within a week, Patricia found herself facing real legal consequences. She was fined for property damage, issued a restraining order, and put under investigation for harassment. The HOA, now desperate to distance itself from her, stripped her of her position. I kept my cameras rolling, just in case, but Patricia had finally learned her lesson. A for sale sign appeared in her yard not long after. The neighborhood? A lot quieter without her around. The strips were back. Patricia had reinstalled them, but this time, she had reinforced them with concrete. I couldn't believe my eyes. The sheer level of petty dedication was beyond anything I had expected. I took more photos, making sure to capture every angle, before heading back inside and dialing Matt again. Matt, we have a problem. What now? He groaned. She put them back. But worse. There was a long silence before Matt sighed heavily. All right, we're taking this to court. Give me every single detail. She just made this 10 times worse for herself. I grinned. Patricia had just signed her own downfall. The next morning, I woke up to find Patricia standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, smug as ever. She wasn't even trying to hide this time. The spike strips were still concreted into my driveway, and she had the nerve to be waiting for my reaction. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool as I walked toward her. Patricia, I don't know what fantasy world you live in, but this is private property. You can't just keep sabotaging my driveway. She smirked. I warned you before. Community rules apply to everyone. The board voted on this. We can't have outsiders cutting through our roads without permission. I shook my head, pulling out my phone. I don't need permission. This is my land. You and your little HOA club have no authority over it. And since you refuse to listen, maybe it's time someone bigger than me gets involved. Patricia's smile faltered for the first time. Oh, and who exactly do you think is going to stop me? I grinned. You're about to find out. Within the hour, Matt was on site with a sheriff's deputy. Patricia's smug expression vanished the moment the uniformed officer stepped out of his vehicle. Excuse me, ma'am, the deputy said, nodding toward the embedded spike strips. We received a complaint about illegal road hazards on private property. Care to explain? Patricia stiffened. This is a community road. The HOA has every right to. Matt cut her off, holding up a stack of legal documents. No, they don't. My client owns this land outright. And according to county property records, this driveway is not under HOA jurisdiction. Installing spike strips here is not only illegal, but it's also considered reckless endangerment. That's a criminal offense. Patricia's face lost all color. You can't be serious. I was just. The deputy sighed. Ma'am, I need you to remove those strips immediately, or we'll have to escalate this further. She stammered. You can't just. Failure to comply could result in criminal charges, Matt added. You're looking at hefty fines, a lawsuit, and potential arrest. Your call. Patricia opened and closed her mouth, like she was trying to find the right words, but for the first time ever, she was speechless. Under the watchful eye of the deputy, Patricia was forced to dig out the spike strips with her own hands. She was fuming, red-faced, sweaty, and absolutely humiliated. Every neighbor within eyesight had come out to watch, whispering to one another as the woman who once acted like she owned the entire neighborhood now struggled to undo her own mess. And me? I stood back, arms crossed, enjoying every second. But Patricia wasn't done, not by a long shot. Later that evening, as I sat on my porch enjoying a well-earned beer, I saw Patricia storming down the street with a clipboard, knocking on doors. She was gathering signatures. By the next morning, an emergency HOA meeting was called. The meeting hall was packed. Patricia stood at the front, her eyes burning with fury as she flipped through stacks of paper. This man is a threat to our community, she declared. He has no respect for our rules, no respect for the values that keep this neighborhood safe and orderly. He's bringing in lawyers and law enforcement to bully us. If we allow this, what's next? Chaos. Lawlessness. Someone cleared their throat. It was the HOA president. Patricia, he said slowly, are you seriously suggesting that you are the victim here? After illegally installing spike strips on someone's driveway. Patricia huffed. It was necessary to enforce. To enforce what? He interrupted. Rules that don't apply to his property? Do you even realize how much legal trouble you've caused this HOA? The room fell into uneasy silence. Patricia's confident posture wavered. For the first time, she realized she had lost. Badly. By the end of the meeting, the HOA board voted overwhelmingly to distance itself from Patricia's actions. She was stripped of her authority, and the HOA was forced to issue a formal apology to me. Patricia, humiliated and powerless, stormed out of the meeting without another word. And just like that, the battle was over. I went back to my porch, took a sip of my beer, and enjoyed the peace I had fought so hard to reclaim. Community standards. We cannot allow outsiders. Outsiders? Another resident cut in. He lives here. You're abusing your power, Patricia. The HOA president continued. And quite frankly, we're tired of it. Patricia looked around, expecting support, but all she got were blank stares. That's when she realized she had lost. By the end of the meeting, Patricia was stripped of her HOA authority. No more clipboard, no more fines, no more community votes. She was done. But Patricia doesn't go down without a fight. That night, I heard shouting outside. I flicked on my porch light, stepping out to see Patricia standing in the middle of the street, yelling at my neighbors. She was furious. You're all turning against me after everything I've done for this community? You think this outsider belongs here, she shrieked. One of the neighbors, an older man named Frank, shook his head. Patricia, you've made this place miserable for years. We're done. Patricia's face twisted into something ugly, but then she spotted me standing on my porch, and she snapped. She stormed toward my property, fists clenched. This isn't over. You think you can come in here and ruin everything? I'll make sure you regret it. I crossed my arms. You're trespassing, Patricia. Walk away before you make things worse. She sneered. Oh, you haven't seen worse yet. And with that, she stormed off into the night. But I had this sinking feeling that she wasn't bluffing. Patricia had lost her power, but she wasn't done fighting. The next morning, I woke up to find my truck missing. I blinked, thinking maybe I was seeing things, but no, the driveway was empty. The same driveway where I had parked it last night. I ran inside, checked my security cameras, and there it was, Patricia, in the dead of night, standing beside a tow truck, smirking as my truck was hauled away. I clenched my jaw. She had gone too far. I picked up my phone and dialed the sheriff directly. Hey, I need to report a stolen vehicle, and I know exactly who took it. The response was immediate. We'll handle it. Patricia thought she was untouchable. She thought losing her HOA title wouldn't stop her. But what she didn't realize, I wasn't just going to let this go. The moment I saw the security footage of my truck being towed, I knew Patricia had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I wasted no time. With the video evidence on my phone, I dialed the sheriff's office directly. Hey, I need to report a stolen vehicle, I said, keeping my voice calm, though my blood was boiling. And I know exactly who took it. We're sending a unit to you now, the officer said. Stay put. I didn't have to wait long. Within 15 minutes, a patrol car pulled up to my driveway. It was the same deputy from before, the one who had made Patricia remove the spike strips. He stepped out, already looking tired. Let me guess, he sighed. Patricia? I showed him the footage. She had a tow truck take my truck in the middle of the night. He frowned, watching the video closely. This is bad. She had no legal right to do this. Where do you think they took it? I already had a suspicion. There's a private impound lot about 5 miles from here. It's not city-run. If she used her HOA connections, that's probably where they put it. The deputy nodded. All right, let's go get your truck back, and let's have a little talk with Patricia while we're at it. We pulled up to the impound lot, and sure enough, there was my truck, parked behind a locked gate. A grizzled man in greasy coveralls stepped out of a small office, frowning as we approached. Something I can help you with, he grunted. Yeah, the deputy said. This truck was illegally towed from private property. We're here to get it back. The guy scratched his beard. HOA lady said it was an unauthorized vehicle. We just did the job. I stepped forward. Unauthorized according to who? I have legal proof that my driveway is private property and not under the HOA. The man sighed, clearly annoyed. Look, I don't want any trouble. If you've got proof, I'll release the truck, but you'll have to pay the impound fee. Absolutely not, the deputy cut in. That truck should never have been taken in the first place. If you want to avoid charges for participating in an illegal repossession, I suggest you waive the fee. The guy held up his hands. Fine, fine. Take it. Just keep that crazy woman away from me. With my truck back in my possession, there was only one thing left to do. Make sure Patricia finally faced the consequences of her actions. There was only one thing left to do. The deputy and I made a direct stop at Patricia's house. She answered the door with a smug smile, but the moment she saw the deputy standing beside me, the color drained from her face. "Patricia," the deputy said, "we need to talk." She tried to feign innocence. "Oh, about what?" I held up my phone, pressing play on the security footage. Patricia standing next to the tow truck, smirking as my vehicle was hauled away. "You stole my truck, Patricia. That's grand theft auto." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. It wasn't theft. It was a community enforcement action. The HOA rules clearly state. The HOA has no authority over my property. I cut her off. "You don't get to enforce anything. You committed a felony, and now you're going to pay for it." The deputy stepped forward. "Patricia, you're under arrest for vehicle theft. Turn around." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "No, this is ridiculous. You can't do this." The deputy ignored her protests, cuffing her hands behind her back. "You have the right to remain silent." By now, the entire neighborhood had gathered to watch. Some whispered, others recorded. The once powerful Patricia, who had tormented the community for years, was being led to a police car like a common criminal. I crossed my arms, watching her unravel with a satisfied smirk. "Told you this wasn't over, Patricia," she thrashed as the deputy guided her toward the vehicle. "You'll regret this. I'll get a lawyer. I'll sue." I leaned against my truck. "Good luck with that. I already have a lawyer, and he's a lot better than yours." Patricia was taken into custody, and in the days that followed, the HOA scrambled to distance themselves from her. Official statements were made. The HOA does not condone the actions of Patricia. The association had no involvement in the illegal towing incident. Blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. Patricia was gone, stripped of her HOA membership, hit with multiple charges, forced to pay thousands in legal fees, and most importantly, no longer my problem. I had won. My driveway was clear, my truck was back, and best of all, no more spike strips. One of the key lessons from this story is the importance of standing your ground against those who abuse power. Karen represents the type of person who thrives on control, believing that rules, even those without legal standing, can be used to intimidate and manipulate others. However, this story proves that knowledge and persistence can dismantle even the most overbearing authority figures. Another critical takeaway is the power of documentation and legal action. Instead of reacting emotionally, the homeowner methodically gathered evidence, sought legal counsel, and relied on the proper authorities to resolve the issue. This approach not only protected his rights, but also ensured lasting consequences for Karen's actions. For older audiences, this serves as a reminder that bullies exist at every stage of life, but they can be defeated with patience, strategy, and the right support. Whether dealing with an unfair HOA, a manipulative individual, or an unjust system, standing firm and knowing the law can turn the tide in your favor. Justice may take time, but in the end, integrity and perseverance win.